My best friend is ungrateful after I did everything for her wedding?
Crash the wedding. Bring other people. Crash it.
I, Nicole, 25 female, was the maid of honor in my best friend from college, Allison's wedding. Allison, 24 female, and Anthony, 26 male, had actually eloped in fall 2022. But last May, she announced to us that she would be having a ceremony. I was one of the few people who knew she was already married. Her parents selected the venue and ended up with a date that was less than a year away. Anthony's family wasn't consulted since his entire family would be traveling from out of the state. By the way, this comes from user SteakTurbulent8552. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. My name's Keon.
I'm Carly.
And I'm Dakota.
Soon after the announcement, I began helping by connecting the bridesmaids, driving a few hours to see her and go dress shopping, and picking out the bridesmaid dresses since she didn't want to deal with it herself. The wedding was going to be out of the state for most of the wedding party. Fortunately for me, it was about an hour from my hometown, so I can make more flexible arrangements. Originally, Allison offered to pay for hair and makeup for the bridal party, but shortly after, changed her mind. For context, I was one of the two bridesmaids of color, so having a makeup artist and hairstylist who didn't have us in their portfolios would have been a lose-lose situation. She also offered to pay for our hair if we went outside to get it done. Her changing her mind didn't really bother me since I was comfortable going to my own stylist, knew the cost wouldn't be outrageous, and I'm very good at doing my own makeup. When room blocking came up, which I brought up, she was against it because Anthony would be able to see her the night before the wedding. She wasn't considering that she was in her parents' hometown and his family would be in town by then. We could have had separate lodging for the bridal party and groomsmen. At no point did she offer to pay for rooms for any of the wedding party. So I moved on and booked a room with the bridesmaids as I was already friends with. I was aware I'd need a rental car because I'd be driving around the state quite a bit. I was more aware of the transportation situation than anyone else since I was the only one asking about it. Allison had mentioned previously that we would have transportation for the ceremony day. About 6 weeks out, I asked her for details because I was making day of ceremony flyers for everyone. That's when she informed me that the venue had sold their transportation service and her mother said it was a hard no on providing transportation for us. If we wanted transportation, we could pay for any of the Lyfts or Ubers ourselves. I covered my own situation with a rental, but I thought it was highly inconsiderate and a slap in the face. Another major issue was the bachelorette party. In June of last year, I surveyed the entire bridal party about their budget and what they'd be open to doing. Allison wanted us to take an extra day off and fly in even sooner to have the bachelorette party in the middle of the week. We thought Thursday would be best since the rehearsal was Friday and the ceremony was Saturday, providing more consideration for everyone's jobs and time off. After several brainstorming sessions, we decided on an in-state resort with a private house. I asked Allison how she felt about spicy dancers since the whole bridal party had put it on the table, and she said she'd put a pin in it and let us know. She later told me that Anthony said it was a hard no. I let her know that if she wanted it, she could have it, but that was the end of it. During the bachelorette party, she irresponsibly took an edible, consuming cannabis for the first time in 3 years, which was also against her Air Force orders. She was confident she'd be okay, so we weren't going to stop her. At some point in the night, she said, "I wish I had more of a wild night, but I'm having so much fun." Another bridesmaid caught that too, and I asked her what she meant. She said she wished she'd had more of a raunchy party, but because Anthony said no, she was okay with it. She detailed how invasive private parties were to him. I reiterated that if she'd want that, we would have made sure things went smoothly. She never said she wanted them, and we'd spent a lot of money to pull this off. I let it roll off and went about my night. Later, she became ill. I asked what she was feeling and got the cold shoulder and was told to get out. I figured she was just too high. At some point, one of the bridesmaids who didn't have transportation was asked to take her to the hospital. The night was over. The diagnosis ended up being that some of her vitamins were low. The next day brought more drama. Since my hair was no longer being paid for, I had to figure out when to get it done. It was suggested that I pay for my hairstylist to drive an hour and miss her other appointments to do my hair the morning of the ceremony. As someone with thick, long hair, I need hot running water, space for a blow dryer, and space for all the products she'd use. That's very unrealistic right before a ceremony, and I'd always kept Allison informed that Friday would be when I got my hair done, meaning I might be late to help set up the venue. Yes, she wanted us to set up the venue, not just decorate, because they didn't pay for setup service. I let her know I was unsure how long my hair would take and that I'd have to go to my parents' house to pick up the remainder of the items I needed and drop off bachelorette items since I was leaving the day after the ceremony. My hair appointment was at 11 and I was finished by 3:30. By then, it was check-in time for my hotel, so I went straight there to change for the rehearsal. Brianna had a 2-hour drive since she had also had to work that day. We were sharing a room, so we met up, checked in, and changed for the rehearsal. When we walked in, we were both met with cold shoulders from Allison's family. To me, it was clear she hadn't communicated our schedules to everyone. We helped where we could, even though her mom told us we could leave and said there was nothing to do. Prior to the morning of the ceremony, Brianna and I let Allison know that we wouldn't be at the bridal suite directly at 8:30 a.m. for several reasons. I was making the schedule and knew exactly what time bridesmaids would start getting ready. Since we'd be doing our own hair and makeup, we'd be sitting around for a while before it was time to start. Brianna would have to do her own hair at the hotel, and we needed to check out since we weren't staying the night of the ceremony. Given all this information, we get ourselves together and be prepared to get ready in the bridal suite, aiming to be there by 9:30. We communicated this to Allison several times.
Like, getting ready all together is like a big thing
For
the bridesmaids at weddings.
Right.
Like, it sounds like all this is going to come back. Like, why do we need this context?
Wednesday before the ceremony, she informed the bridal party that there were only 2 vanities, so we'd need handheld mirrors if we wanted to do our own hair and makeup. That would be difficult, so we reconfirmed that we'd already told her and let her know we'd be a little behind. Her only comment was, "Oh, I wanted all of us to be there at the same time." Neither of us responded because we'd already told her no. At the end of the rehearsal, she started yelling, 8:30. We let it roll off. She also mentioned that she told someone that we needed to have bras and shorts for the morning. I'm not a forgetful person, so I told her she never told me that.
If you need to be there at 8:30 then, and she doesn't want you to be there at 9:30, then you wake up at 7:30 and you get there at 8:30.
She corrected herself and said, "Oh, I thought I did, but I forgot. Maybe you all can run and get bras and shorts." The night before the ceremony, Brianna and I reminded Allison again that we wouldn't be there right at 8:30, but would be there early. She didn't reply until roughly 7 a.m., saying we can get ready in the bridal suite. Brianna wears her hair natural, so she'd still have to prep her hair at the hotel no matter what. And that's all we were telling her. Since the room was in my name, I couldn't leave until Brianna was ready. Not long after, she called to ask if we were ready yet. I said no. Brianna was still in the shower, and I was finishing up my last things. She started complaining about telling us to be there, and I reminded her that we'd already told her our plan. I let her know I knew what time I needed to be there, and everything would be okay. I hung up, and then she texted me a nasty paragraph saying the laugh at the end was unnecessary.
It probably was. You sound like you're causing drama.
That she really didn't need this today, and that she'd wanted to do something nice for everyone by being there before makeup and hair, but it probably wasn't going to happen now. I didn't reply because the gift was a sheen necklace and one of those Amazon kits with robes and slippers. It's still a gift.
With that, and an Amazon kit. That's like that's probably what she wanted you to wear while you guys were getting ready and they were taking pictures.
Yeah, now you're kind of making this more about yourself, OP, but let's keep going. She hadn't put an effort into finding us gifts or doing anything nice for us. Even her asking me to be maid of honor was just a "will you be my maid of honor?" phone call. These gifts were just an Instagram moment to her, which was the focus of a lot of her behavior. She's not even an influencer.
Girl, you're
Shut
a hater.
Up. Yeah, you're
a hater.
I had to wait.
Keon's on the hate train.
I'm on a hate
too.
train.
She's not even an influencer, though. Like, what?
Kim Roberts
Shut
says, I
up.
disagree on that one. Gifts for the
Hey.
bridal party are
Hey,
necessary.
I think that gifts for the bridal party have become a bigger thing as of late. I don't know when this was. Oh, this is after 22. So this was when that was a kind of a bigger thing. But if you can't afford it, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
The honor of standing up there next to your
Is the
friend
gift.
is the
The
gift.
gift, I was
Is the
gonna
thing
say.
of like,
Yeah.
I value us so much that I want you there with me. I want you hanging out with me from 8:30 in the morning.
And then you wonder why they eloped first.
Yeah.
This changed my attitude and had me behind with getting ready. I let Brianna know what was said, and I was ready to drop out. Once I finally got myself together, Allison called Brianna, letting her know the bridal party had forgotten cash that I informed them they needed a few days prior. She also needed film for her camera. At that point, I was over it. We checked out. I messaged the group chat saying I'd run and get the film, and Brianna would get the cash since they were in opposite direction. I showed up, said hello to everyone, gave her the film, but she didn't say thank you. I went on my way that day. Somehow they forgot to do Anthony's mother's hair, and she was first on the list. They tried to brush it off as no big deal, but only the black girls assisted her with getting ready. My feelings were hurt because that was such a careless action. I started to feel that I no longer belonged in this friendship. I observed how Allison interacted with other friends compared to how I interact with mine. It was clear we'd grown apart. The rest of the day went pretty smooth. I did my toast and moved on. I must also add that my parents were invited. My dad is a barber. but he's appointment only and strictly works with his own clients. He doesn't take new clients. September, Allison asked if he'd be willing to do Anthony's hair the morning of the ceremony. My dad said no, not of disrespect, but because that's a lot of pressure for a one-time cut, and you need to be familiar with someone's head for special occasions.
There's one thing here that I just saw because I was scrolling back to see if race was mentioned anywhere at the beginning of the story.
It was.
It was.
But
2 bridesmaids.
yeah, but also the bride and groom already eloped.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're just having a ceremony. So maybe they're just like more chill with it being like kind of loose. It doesn't feel like it was planned super hard because they're already married. So they probably don't care that much. And OP feels like that all this stuff not happening like perfectly is like an affront to everyone involved.
That's why it's making sense why they eloped.
You're
Yeah.
getting there now.
getting there.
You've
Yeah.
caught on.
Yeah.
I thought that was the end of it. 10 days before the ceremony, she called and asked if my dad could cut his hair again. I let her know his answer probably wouldn't change. And it didn't. I sent her a few people I knew of, though I knew she knew more since she was well known at our school. During the reception, she walked up to the table my parents were at and said hello to 2 guys who went to college with us. My parents later told me she didn't say hello to them. I know it's not always possible to talk to everyone, but I was disgusted that she didn't look to see who else was at the table. She didn't speak to them until my mom approached her after the cake cutting. Anthony was only a few feet away, and she didn't introduce them. I had to do that after Allison noticed she'd introduced his mom to my mom. At that point, I was ready to go. I left after the tossing of my bouquet, said my goodbyes, and left early because I had to turn in my rental in the morning and head to the airport. I decided to write a letter detailing my experience and how I felt she was very ungrateful. She didn't thank any of the wedding party during her toast and was an uninvolved bride. If it wasn't for me, a lot of things would have slipped through the cracks. Many of my friends said I should have dropped out and to consider that she may not put this much effort into my special day, as there have been many instances where she made my events about her or tried to get me to make adjustments specifically for her without considering others or myself. I decided to wait until I got the professional pictures because I did a damn good job on my makeup. I don't know when I'll physically see her again, but in every disagreement we've had, she purposely misunderstood me or tried to minimize things that hurt my feelings. I'm at a point in this friendship where I don't care about conversation or resolve. I just want her to know that she's hurt me for the last time. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with her? And we have an update. We ended up chatting Memorial Day weekend, right after her honeymoon. We talked because Brianna went to her about our venting session the night before the wedding. Apparently, when I left the reception, Brianna and the other bridesmaids had a powwow with Allison and her husband. Brianna told Allison it was my fault that she and I were late that morning, which I went over in the original post and still have screenshots to discredit. She also told her about my feelings toward our relationship and how the wedding weighed on me. Interestingly enough, Brianna didn't talk about anything she said or even allude to it being a conversation. So, my first conversation with Allison was about a conversation I didn't participate in where I was belittled by all the bridesmaids. Throughout the entire wedding process, I'd left an open line of communication for everyone where I was always clear, forthcoming, and available. So it was very disheartening to find out they had to wait until I left to say anything. I'm sorry, didn't you say earlier that you didn't want to communicate things? Or I communicated, but now we're all having a little pouty fest?
No, I know that wedding debrief hit.
Yeah.
I know they were having fun.
No matter how I felt toward them in any moment, I was always kind and still made space for them. I do believe I have an intimidating spirit because I don't let a lot of things get past me. If it's stupid, I'm going to call it out. I've gotten better, but a lot of things the bridesmaids did were worth calling out in those moments. I believe they were all a passive group. In short, they said I was a witch, and I laughed immediately. Conversation with Allison was brief, but she did apologize after criticizing me and saying I ruined her day. I would agree if I'd done anything intentionally or passively to ruin her day. I was told I ruined her day by leaving an hour before the reception ended because I had an early flight and my parents lived an hour away from the venue. I was able to take accountability for not pulling out of the wedding sooner and voicing my frustration with someone who wasn't her. But everything else considered, I wasn't wrong for how this wedding played out or how it impacted me. I thought that was the end of the conversation, and we decided to keep each other at arm's length. Maybe a month went by and she posted the photo. I liked the post, posted my photos, and she liked mine. The next day, I got a call from her saying she'd spoken with Brianna, who gave her the rest of the conversation we'd had the night before the wedding. Brianna lied and said I questioned her husband's love for her and didn't understand why he was marrying her, which was completely untrue. I got to a point where I was tired of defending myself because it was convenient for both Brianna and Allison, as well as the other bridesmaids. Nobody wanted to tell her she was wrong, and because I was already the angry black woman in the scenario, it was better to keep piling on and just push me out of her life since I was always going to call her and those around her's bluff. We ended that conversation with her telling me she was pregnant, which was awkward, but I was honestly glad I'm no longer in that friendship because I didn't want to participate in any other planning when it came to her. By the way, when it comes to you can listen to full episodes with stories just like this one. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, your favorite podcast app, and search OK Storytime. After all that crap talking, Opie says, I haven't blocked her. We're still mutual on social media, and after our last conversation, she would text me pregnancy updates. I've completely muted her and don't reach out. When she does text, I'm short. She asked me for favors, advice, and information several times since our last conversation, which frustrated me all over again. I drew the line when she asked if she could use my apartment for Thanksgiving. We're not on familiar terms, and I don't think we ever will be. I've always felt used. I've always been a great friend, willing to go the extra mile and always having something someone needs or willing to figure out how to get it for them. I've always been way too dependable and looking out for her best interests, but it got to a point where I no longer care. Once I said no about Thanksgiving, which she asked about 2 months ago, we haven't exchanged any other texts aside from me saying happy birthday, which got no response. So it's very fair that maybe Allison could also, there's a lot more to it than we know, but this is just one side of the story.
Yeah. Did she ask to use your house for Thanksgiving, or did she ask to hang out with you on
No,
Thanksgiving?
she wants to use her place for Thanksgiving, which is very odd.
I don't trust her.
My friend belittled my career. Now she wants to apologize.
I won't even accept it if you do.
For backstory, I, female, just turned 29, and my former bestie, female, 28, had a falling out nearly 3 years ago, which effectively ended our 15-year-long friendship. We had had plenty of petty arguments before that over the years, but for whatever reason, this one ended up being the final straw for us. By the way, this comes from user T and Tears on the r/CharlotteDobre YouTube subreddit. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. I'm Dakota.
I'm Angie.
And I'm
Angie.
Riley.
I'm Angie.
I'm Dakota.
That was such a mess.
And OP says, at the time, bestie had been taking dance classes and had invited me to attend her performances. There were 2 performances, one being the final weekend of April and the other being the first weekend of May. April and May is the busiest time at my job except for December, and my coworkers and I are all expected to work extra hours during that time period, including mandatory overtime shifts on the weekends. I explained to her that this meant I would only be able to attend one of the shows, lest I risk being fired, as one former coworker had already been the previous season. And she should pick her favorite, and I would request the day or afternoon off that weekend, but would not be able to get the time off to see both. She was fine with this and chose the May show. Some weeks later, however, she was chatting about how excited she was for the performances and that I should actually really come to the April one, which was to occur the following week. I explained in goo goo gaga baby language that I had already requested time for the May show. And I reiterated that it was not possible for me to come to both, and at this point it was too late for me to change the requested schedule. I know not everyone will approve of me putting my job ahead of my friend, but I really, really did not want to risk being fired.
I feel like that's totally fine. I approve. Because it's not like you're ignoring your friend. You're like, yeah, I'll go. Just I can't go this time. I can only go this time.
You didn't put your job above your friend at all. You literally were like, I will make sure I can go to one of your shows. And then she told you, actually, don't go to that one. Go to this one.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, hey, I don't know if you know how the world works. I can't just flip that around in the busiest time of the year.
Don't work like that.
Yeah. I had already been fired from my previous full-time job and struggled with being unemployed and underemployed for nearly 2 years before finally being hired at this one. And I had and still have no confidence that I would be able to land another job that was even close to as good a fit for me as this one was, nor one that would pay any kind of living wage. On top of this, my father had also been unemployed for some of the same time, so I was extra nervous about losing my position. This is when things began to get uncomfortable. Bestie then pivoted and started asking how much money I make, what kind of benefits, etc. I asked her why she wanted to know, and she said she wanted to get a sense for what to look for as she would also be seeking a new job soon. It felt like a fake reason. And part of me knew I was being set up for some kind of trap, but I didn't want to believe my best friend would try to manipulate me. I was uncomfortable, mentioned that I wasn't raised to talk openly about money with others, but still
provided some vague answers for her. I wished I hadn't, because she then started doing calculations to figure out how many decades it would take me to earn enough money to purchase a condo or small house. I struggle with depression, and this makes setting and achieving goals difficult for me, and she knew purchasing a small home for myself was quite literally the only goal I had at the time. It hurt my feelings a lot that she basically implied the one and only thing I was working for was a useless pipe dream, but being petty, I pretended I didn't understand what the connection was to the original situation. She seemed to believe I was really that dumb and decided to stop speaking to me until I figured it out.
Ah, the good old silent treatment.
So this little dumb girl is trying to say, well, I mean, it's not like your job can even pay for a house like you want. So why would you not get your shift switched around so that you could go to the one show, even though I already told you that you should go to the other one?
Right. It's like, I'm sorry, how much money are you making from this show?
Slam dunked.
I was a theater kid. I support it. However, if you're gonna come at me for my money as an artist, girl, you got it. You can't.
Over a situation you are creating.
Yeah.
I already told you. Tell me which one you want me to be at. You told me
Exactly.
that one. And now you're like, this one.
You're pulling the switcheroony.
And now you're gonna try to
It's
be
not
like,
fair.
well, your job can't even. You're not even ever gonna be able to get a house from working here. So why do you even care?
Yeah. Like, okay, well now I'm not gonna go to either. Stupid.
Yeah. Now, my conflict avoidant, people-pleasing behind felt awful that we had fought so badly, and I still attended one of her shows even though we hadn't spoken all week. I thought we would reconcile everything soon and didn't want our fight to spoil her big night. So I went, texted her that she did great, and I enjoyed it, and she was happy that I came. She told me she was still a bit angry, and I said I was still hurt, but we could talk about it the next day. I did not talk to her the next day, or for the next 2 weeks. In these few days, I noticed that every time Bestie and I argued, it was almost always me who had to apologize first and admit fault for the situation. I'm not trying to say I was a perfect friend by any means, and I know all friends fight sometimes, but logically, I think in a relationship involving two people, each would likely be the instigator about 50% of the time. She had hurt my feelings a lot this time and hadn't even acknowledged that. Even when I told her straight up, she only acknowledged her own anger. After 2 weeks of reflection, I realized I probably came across as not caring about something she's passionate about, although that wasn't my intent, so I apologized for that and nothing else. She never replied, and I never spoke to Bestie again. Girl, you had nothing to apologize for.
Really?
Yeah.
You
yeah.
literally made plans. You're like, okay, I'll go to the May show.
Yeah.
And then she said, no, he's just going to the April show. And
Yeah,
you
and
go,
she
well,
was-
I have this thing called a job where I work and
Oh.
get paid for my job.
Low
Yeah.
key would be nice to know if this friend is living on her own, because if she isn't, she doesn't have those responsibilities at home.
Dude. Yeah. That would be a perfect thing to throw in her
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
Can you
Well, not to throw in her face, but just to realize she doesn't really know how the adult world works.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
would-
buy groceries and it 20% be yogurt and 70% wine.
And it's like,
Yeah, it's
girl,
probably that one.
you pointing out that this job I have can't pay for my house. You know what's really not going to help? Getting fired from it
Yeah.
because
And then-
because
and
I
then-
am unreliable because I flip-flopped on the day that I wanted to
Right.
take off.
And then spending the little money I have on your show.
Yeah.
on a ticket
Yeah.
to your show.
So Bestie is gone MIA permanently. It hurt a lot to be ignored like that on top of the original fight, and it made me feel like I was disposable. It has embarrassingly affected my other friendships, as I am always a bit anxious now that other friends can drop me just as easily out of the blue, that I am disposable and not worth maintaining a friendship with. No, girl, that girl was just trash. I did realize, though, that there were many other moments over the years where she had made me feel bad about myself in one way or another. And over time, I have come to feel we both brought up some of the worst qualities in each other. And we were both better off living separate lives. But yesterday, I received a little letter in the mail from Bestie. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 3 pages, single-spaced, apologizing and saying that she missed me. She took accountability for most of what happened except for one thing. She zeroed in on how I was going on and on about how important my job was, and she interpreted me saying I wasn't raised to speak about money as some kind of jab implying I was raised better than her, which was not my intent. She called my faux pas classist and demeaning. She talked for over half a page about that alone, to the point where her apology earlier in the letter now felt a bit hollow, as if this, like everything else, was my fault. She concluded the letter saying she would understand if I've given up on her, but hopes we can be friends again. Truthfully, I don't want to be friends again. I still care about her and wish her a good life, and the recovering people pleaser in me wishes we could resolve everything. But I honestly think I would hate myself just a little if I let her back into my life. So now I have a choice to make. Do I acknowledge the letter and explain that I don't want to be friends again, or do I toss it in the recycling bin and ignore it completely? At this point, I just want to minimize the pain either action would cause me or her, and would appreciate some advice. And by the way, I'll always give you the same advice, that you can listen to full episodes with stories like this on Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search OK Storytime, and you've got the whole archive at your fingertips.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little bit more story here. And honestly, I would be like, no, don't respond. Throw it in the trash. It's whatever.
Yeah.
Move on.
Right. If you're reflecting and you're finding parts of your friendship where you felt bad about yourself and that you bring out the worst in each other, that's not something that you want to like jump right back into, especially after this mess.
Yeah, especially since you said it yourself. The letter kind of felt hollow after she went off on you about being classist and rude
She mailed
for something
that, to
that honestly, she could have clarified that in real time in 5 seconds.
That's crazy.
In that
dude.
moment.
That's so
what did you mean by that? Are you implying something? And you go, no. What are you? No, I'm just trying. I don't want to talk about my job.
She said, I'll show her. I won't text her, but I'll because I'm too busy writing this letter.
I'm too busy writing this letter. Edit. I really appreciate all the advice and insight most people in the comments have provided. I should clarify that if I were to respond, it would only be something simple along the lines of, I appreciate your apology and still care for you, but we can no longer go back to how things were. Have a good life. OP. As much as I wish I could forget entirely about her, it's hard to imagine myself intentionally hurting someone who once meant so much to me, especially when I know about and have a lot of empathy regarding the other hardships in her life. Basically, it seemed cruel to me to be so direct, but it also seemed cruel to leave her in suspense like she had left me. I have decided to follow the consensus of the comment section and just toss the letter out. Just not worth it. Someone did express concern that she might believe I didn't receive it and try to interact again. But if that happens, I will just have to be more stern and put an end to it more clearly. And yeah, good job. You did the right thing, I think.
You can finish the job and just burn it for her.
Yeah, you can burn the letter.
Yeah, there you go.
You can just write your letter back that says LOL okay and then burn that
And then
one.
burn it. Yeah. Exactly.
But folks,
yeah,
that is the end of that story.
that
and
is the end.
the end of that stream. So, if you love us, make sure you subscribe.
We love you.
And see you tomorrow.